Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Big Astronomy Live program. My name is Renee Kerrigan. I'm a member of the Big Astronomy Leadership Team, and I'm also the Planetarium Director and the Curator of Science at the Peoria Riverfront Museum. And tonight, I'm very excited to have with us Vivian White, who is the Director for Free Choice Learning at the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. She is going to be talking to us about one of the educational activities that the ASP made for this big astronomy project called Legends in the Sky, Constellations from Around the World. But before we dive into that, I just want to give a little overview of what Big Astronomy is. So, Big Astronomy is the National Science Foundation funded project that includes a whole suite of educational opportunities. It includes a planetarium show that was created by the California Academy of Sciences, which is about the telescopes in Chile that are funded by the National Science Foundation, but also, more importantly, not about the scopes themselves, but about the people that it takes to make these telescopes work. It takes diverse teams of people from around the world to make big discoveries happen at these big observatories. So to go along with the planetarium show, which is made in both English and Spanish and being distributed for free or at very low cost around the world, we have a website, bigastronomy.org. We have these ongoing events that directly connect our viewers to STEM professionals. The Real People Big Astronomy series connects people to the folks who work at these observatories. And then we also have these educational activity demonstrations that Vivian and her team are leading. And you can find out information about that on our web portal, bigastronomy.org. And we have a toolkit of hands-on materials that was created by the Astronomical Society of the Pacific that's used by amateur astronomers and informal learning centers like museums all around the United States. And finally, we have educational research being done on this project by Michigan State University. And you will have an opportunity to contribute to that research at the end of this program if you are interested. So I hope you will, if you're here, you probably already follow us on social media, but if you don't, I hope you'll take a moment to do that so that you'll learn about upcoming events. We also have a newsletter that we send out about these programs, and you can find that at bigastronomy.org. But for now, thank you, Vivian, for being here with us, and I'm going to let you tell us about constellations from around the world and legends in the sky.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much, Renee, for having me. This is so much fun. I'm going to share my screen with any luck. See about that. All right, and I'm going to present even. All right, is that working? All right, thumbs up. Hi, everyone. I'm Vivian White. I work at the Astronomical Society of the Pacific in San Francisco, California, and we have had so much fun with this project. And one of the things that we are doing here is creating virtual activities, hands-on and virtual activities to do with the general public. These are predominantly for amateur astronomy clubs and museum educators, all for informal educators, but you can use them in so many settings. So while we started this in 2018 and did a lot of testing, I think you can see here, this was some of our testing we did down in Chile. We've tested this with astronomy clubs and museums, and we came up with a suite of 7 different activities that you can use to talk about all the jobs that it takes to do these big astronomy, to make these big discoveries. Talks about how light pollution affects us. We have a whole strand on light pollution. There's also talking about all the different filters and multi-wavelength ways that we can see the universe. And the last, but certainly not least, of the topics that we wanted to cover is that the cultures around the world use the night sky and have legends that they tell about the night sky that affect their own, that have come from generations before and are used now in addition to the regular constellations that astronomers use. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about one of them tonight. Each of the activities has a couple of pages that are for presenters to share with the general public. So if you're doing this, say, at a table at a museum, you can have these really fun images that share some about constellations. They are used to engage in conversations about it. So there are a lot of questions that are asked. For example, has anyone ever shown you a constellation in the night sky? So I can't see the chat right now, but if you want to put in there, do you know a constellation in the night sky? Can you find that? And if so, who showed that to you for the first time? Do you remember where you were, what that was like when someone showed you your first constellation that you can maybe pick out in the night sky? So there are lots more information on the following pages. Each activity has 4 pages, 2 for the general public, and then some pages for the presenters specifically that give you more information about the learning goals and materials that you need. And since these were created to do in person, they have a lot of fun things that you can do with your audiences in person. However, there are also now we have created a lot of ways to do these, not necessarily in person, but virtually. So no matter what happens next, we have those available for when you're doing virtual presentations. In the Legends of the Night Sky, it's all about honoring the human cultures around the world and their constellation legends. This can be a little bit of a tricky subject because you don't want to tell stories that were not meant for cultures outside of a specific culture. Ooh, that's not the one. So it's important to understand. There's a little note here on respecting the legends of other cultures and telling stories appropriately that respect those. So we worked with a lot of different cultures on these, a lot of representatives from different cultures who helped us tell these stories. And we don't necessarily use the word stories because sometimes these are not just stories. These are part of a mythology, part of um, a, a connection to the universe that cultures can have. So I'm going to hop out of here for a second and show you how we've taken one of these and made it a virtual activity that we can do. So
And
it,
Vivian, while you're getting that set up, I just thought I'd mention we have a couple folks who've told us that they remember. Jim says he knows how to find Orion. He remembers that he was taught how to find it so he could align it with the Great Pyramids.
oh,
Bob
wow.
says his dad worked at the Adler in Chicago and he grew up hanging around there. And he also got an astronomy merit badge as a child. And Fred on Facebook says that Orion is his favorite constellation and it was explained to him by his grandfather.
Oh, that is wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm so glad I couldn't see the chat, so I really appreciate that. Um, if you're doing this in person, you can tell these stories, and then we have these create your own constellation sheets that you can hand out a worksheet that you can do and draw and include pencils and such. But we're going to try it online. So I've created this Jamboard. Has anybody used Jamboard before? It's one of my favorite virtual tools. And you just need a Google account and you can just sign up for Jamboard. If you have any questions afterwards, I can help with that. But this is just an introduction that you can use for facilitating the event online. And the first 2 questions on there are, can you find any constellations and who taught you these? And Orion right here is probably the most well-known constellation in the northern and some southern hemispheres. This is an activity that we've created to be useful in both the northern and southern hemispheres. So one of the constellations that's visible in both is Orion. Some of the constellations that are included are only visible in the northern or southern hemisphere. So we have part of the Big Dipper, which is only visible in the north. And then we have Acrux, which is, excuse me, only visible south of the equator-ish. I guess you can view it pretty close, but I can't see it from San Francisco, that's for sure. Can't see much at all from San Francisco, which is our other topic on light pollution.
Another Facebook viewer mentions that the Big Dipper was their first
Yes.
constellation they could identify. They saw it mentioned on TV. So Julius says that that was their first constellation they could find.
That is great. Yes, this is included in there. So there are 7 different constellations that are included. We're going to use one that's up right now. So I have created this Jamboard for this evening, and this one's all about the Pleiades. So has anyone ever seen the Pleiades? It's one of my very favorite constellations. And we can tell stories about that. So the Pleiades is is not actually a constellation. It's called an asterism. It's a small group of stars. It's actually um, a small cluster of stars that are young stars that have just been born. We think of them as kind of like heading out into the world. This is a cluster of stars that's just been born, and it's going to emerge from its cocoon of gas and dust, and they're all going to be heading in different directions in a few million years. We won't even see them together. Um, but these are a well-known constellation in the northern and southern hemisphere, and I have a few different stories and legends that people from around the world have told about this. So we've worked extensively with some of our friends in Chile and the Mapuche people of southern Chile. They use this set of stars to help them predict the weather, and it tells them a little bit about when they should plant or when they should harvest. And they think of them as a pile of freshly dug potatoes. So I can kind of see that. In Siberia, there is a legend about a duck's nest, and you can tell that these have some correlation with what is happening in that part of the world. So in Greenland, they see a pack of dogs surrounding a polar bear. You can imagine that the native, say San Franciscans, would not have seen a pack of dogs or or maybe they would have seen a pack of dogs, but not a polar bear, because that's not something that we see on a regular basis. So we often incorporate pieces of our surroundings uh, into our stories and legends about the night sky. There's a white ostrich that a tribe in Brazil sees. So they come and they're part of a larger narrative that happens. We haven't told those here because often those are part of a bigger worldview, and you can look those up if you'd like, and you can find stories that you might like to tell. But we've just given you some ideas about what people see. So the Pleiades here are the bright cluster of blue stars on the top. So next, we encourage you. I'm going to, Renee just started this. Renee, if you could share the Jamboard link in the chat, you all are welcome to join me for this. So Renee started one on slide number 3, but if anyone would like to join us, you can create your own legends here. Now, it's really a cool idea of to put something in the sky means it means a lot to us. So it might be the story of a really important person in your life, or a uh, something that's around you all the time that you interact with all the time. In San Francisco, I might use the seals in the harbor or something like that, that tell a story in the sky about what is important to you. So I see a bunch of people have joined now. If you would like to pick a slide, you can actually edit these. So I've created these so they should be editable by you. If you want to go down to starting at slide 5, it looks like there's enough people. I might need to make a few extras. If you want to make extras, you can just duplicate the ones here. I'll duplicate a few more. So there are lots of available slides that you can hop on. If you don't see anyone on one, go ahead and hop on. You can create your own legend. So go ahead and put your name on there. Draw. You can use let's see, I'll go back to Renee's right here. And up in the left-hand side, there's a pen. If you double click it, you can make it any color you want. I'm going to make it yellow, and I'm going to make it a thick pen. You can draw anything you'd like. So if you'd like to draw something that represents a story on a slide of your very own, go ahead and you can edit the text. You can draw pictures on there. You can add little notes if you'd like. This is a fun activity to do. I like to partner people up. And so if we are on a Zoom and you have the ability to do breakout rooms, that's really fun. So have 2 people break out into a room and talk to each other about what they see or what they would like to see. If you have a family group, it's a really fun way to have a family hop into a small group and create their own legends. So Feel free to edit these, put your name on there. Oh, Barbara, I'm glad to see you got it. So feel free to use the pen tool and make some drawings. It doesn't have to be beautiful. Mostly it's something you want to represent that's important to you. You know, the constellations, like those, don't necessarily look like a pack of dogs. Right? We wouldn't necessarily look at that set of stars and say, oh, that's a pack of dogs. But because it's an important story or legend to them, they have represented them in the night sky. So I encourage you to hop on and make your own legends. I think we have a few people on these um, right now. And I'm just going to stop sharing and let you do that for a minute. And feel free to ask questions or share stories if you'd like. I'm going to stop share for just a minute.
So you'll find that
Ah, yes.
link is in the comments here on the Zoom webinar and on Facebook, and we do have some people in there. And I
Yeah.
thought I'd mention that Barbara, who actually narrated the Big Astronomy show, is an astronomer, a Chilean astronomer. She says, "Thanks for the stories and the legends. And potatoes were a big part of the culture," referring to the legend about the Pleiades. And Susie, who's watching, says, "In fifth grade, my friends and I were assigned to the royal family to do a report on." So we're assigned to do a report on the royal family, and so Cassiopeia, Andromeda, and Cepheus were the first constellations that I learned, and I love that because they are a royal family in the sky, right?
Ah, excellent. So astronomers use constellations in a little bit of a different way. We like to think we've split the sky up into 88 constellations, I believe. Is that right, Renee? Got that number?
I believe that's right.
I think so. And they're kind of like state boundaries or country boundaries. So they're not necessarily, there's certainly not any specific lines in the sky, but we've split the sky up into 88 constellations in order to better find things. So, um, like if you wanted to find Washington, well, Washington D.C. is maybe not the best part. Maybe if you wanted to find the Grand Canyon, you would have to tell what state it was in and then kind of give directions from there. So, in the same way, if we see a new supernova, we want to say it's in a certain constellation and then give directions from there. So, scientists, astronomers use it in a little bit of a different way. Um, oh, yes. Excellent. Yeah, for some of us who know the night sky really well, it can be so hard to unsee what we know, right? I have a very hard time unseeing those things sometimes. But for a general audience, it can be a little confusing to look up at the night sky and try and decipher what those are. So this gives them a way to kind of create their own constellations. And then when you go out in the night sky tonight, you can look up and see if you can find the constellation that you have created um, to tell your story. So let's see. I'm just looking at some of the pictures being drawn. Oh, Barbara, it's wonderful. um, I don't know. Is Barbara on our? Can she speak? No, I think she's on with us with Facebook. I would love to know what that constellation is. I'm just going to share again and share Barbara's. It looks to me. Well, you tell me what it is, and I will. I'll just share that with everyone. All right. Can you see this legend that she has written? So you can also then take this text and write your own story. But I love that. That's so cute. I'm gonna see, let's see. A few other people I saw were working on these. Ah, yes. Oh, what could this be? Is it a flag upside down? I'm not sure. Oh, the garden hoe. Would you, I just put, or Renee just put her name up on the top. I'm not sure who created the garden hoe, but I just love this story.
I did. That was mine.
You did. It's wonderful. I know what a big gardener you are, so that's fabulous. Yeah, so this is one of the activities that's included in the toolkit. I just wanted to share. Let's see if anybody else has added their stories. Feel free to get on here and you can mess around. You can create. Oh, there we go. Here we go, Barbara. A mouse searching for its cheese. That is fabulous. Ah, great.
Meg has a question. She's watching on Facebook and asks, "What are some of the resources you've used to find constellation legends from other cultures?" I think she's recognizing how we try to be sensitive about making sure we are accurate when we're speaking about other cultures and sensitive.
It's a really good point. Okay, I'm going to hop out for just a second and I will share one of my favorites comes from let me just find that really fast. If you go to, I'll put the bit, it's just a bit.ly, control C, let's see if I can get that. I have, so the link to the activity, I'm going to stick in the chat and you can share that. Oh, let me find the chat again. There are some great ways to do that. Let's see. If you go to bit.ly/legends in the sky. There are a lot of resources. The one I was thinking about that I have there is called Figures in the Sky, and it is just one of my favorite. They've done a fabulous job um, telling about how cultures around the world have seen their myths and legends in the stars. And so you can look at a specific, I'll share this again. Let me see if I can share my screen. You can look at a specific constellation, or actually these go by stars. So for example, we were talking about Betelgeuse in the constellation Orion, or we were talking about the constellation Orion earlier, and you can see in many different, let's see if I can get this out. So they show what the constellation lines look like for men. This is the Egyptian Sa, and I don't actually know that story, so it would be something to look up. Let's see. In Belarus, they think of it as the throne. So, and it goes, we've got so many different cultures represented here. In the Japanese moon stations, it's the investigator. And so they have this for quite a few of the constellations that are common that we look at around the world. There are a lot of other great resources on the that bit.ly that I gave you is goes to Legends in the Sky, and there are also you can request the audio or video files of native storytellers. And one of the best ways to tell stories is have the native storytellers tell it themselves. And there are a lot of those that are around. There's also access the sky mythology from Windows to the Universe is a really good one. So let's see. Taking a minute to come up, I think. Culture. Stories, maybe. There we go. There's the Star Lore of Native America, for example, with an ad. It gives you some examples of places that have assembled different stories and legends from around the world. So, yeah, so I think that is most of what I have. There are plenty more activities from the Big Astronomy Toolkit to access. And if you would like, I'm going to stop sharing for a second and show you where you can, if you are at a museum or in an astronomy club or at a planetarium, there is a place to request a toolkit. So I'm going to get that link up just one second when I find it. There we go. Just stuck that in the chat. If you want to share that with the Facebook world too, that would be wonderful. So this is if you, for as long as we have them, we would love to send these out to museums and amateur astronomy clubs. Right now it's just in the US, unfortunately, but all of the activities are available online and you can access them and create them yourselves pretty easily.
Well, if anyone has a question for Vivian about, we answered some of them, I think, but if anyone has any further questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat, either here in the Zoom webinar or on our Facebook, and we'll be I'm happy to answer them for you. But while we're waiting to see if we have any questions come in, I'd like to mention an upcoming Real People Big Astronomy event. So this is the event series that features STEM professionals, mostly STEM professionals who work at these observatories, and we have a conversation about their job and who they are and what they like to do and how they got to their place that they are today. With the goal of helping people understand that lots of different kinds of people do STEM careers, and there's lots of different paths to a STEM career. You don't necessarily have to get a PhD. And the next one of those programs actually features Sherry Lifson, who works for AURA, which is the Association of Universities and Research in Astronomy that manages a lot of the big telescopes and the big sites. And she's a communications specialist and coordinator within AURA. And so that program is in the evening of March 26th. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on March 26th. And so just tune in right here on Big Astronomy's Facebook or join us on Zoom, and you'll find all the details for that on our Facebook page. So we don't have any questions that have come up in the chat. So thank you so much, Vivian, for talking to us about constellations from around the world. And I did mention at the beginning that we have a program, or we have educational research that's being done on the Big Astronomy Project as a whole by Michigan State University. So Dr. Jessica Trucks is on to tell us a little bit about that.
Hi, everyone. Like Renee said, this is an NSF-funded project, so as part of that, we're conducting education research around the Big Astronomy Project. So if you'd like to help us out, we'd really love it if you could, even if you've helped us out before. You can help us out by filling out the survey that should have popped up in your chat or comments section on Facebook. If you fill out the survey, you'll be entered to win a $10 gift card to Amazon. Another way you can help is during the survey, you can opt in to talk with us 2 times over the next few months, and afterwards receive a $40 gift card to Amazon. So if you'd like to help, we'd really appreciate it, and thank you so much.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the program today. I know I did. Thank you for being here, Vivian. Thank you, Sebastian, for, as always, doing your Spanish interpretation. And thank you for our guests for coming tonight. We'll be back on March 26th, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Renee.